now the weekend soccer produced a pretty definitive result in terms of where the Premier League title may end up going this season. It was Manchester City's demolition of Liverpool at Anfield, and it was definitely the most startling result of the weekend. A weekend that was full of interest, of course, as it always is. And I'm joined now by John Giles to look back on it. John, the match of the week, of course, Manchester City, the former champions, twice winners under Pep Guardiola, going to Anfield to play Liverpool, who are defending their Premier League title. It was a remarkable game, and I must say, as someone who is a Liverpool fan, but that's not what we're doing here, I was shocked by the goals they gave away towards the end, having been gifted an equaliser, really. They then just fell apart. What did you make of the game, John? Roy Keane on Sky in particular was very, very critical of their attitude, and he said that their defence of their title had been bad. He said they didn't play like champions. I agreed with him, I must say, wholeheartedly. I thought yesterday was pretty shocking in the last 20 minutes. It's come at the end of a bad run for Liverpool, the first time since 1963 that they lost 3 games at Anfield. What do you think of it?
Well, it's not good for Liverpool, Eamon, that's for sure. And to go back to your first point about Roy Keane, you couldn't dispute what he said.
No.
But that's Roy. I mean, what made Roy Keane great when he was at Manchester United was the attitude he had, having won the league title a couple of times. He was just as hungry starting the next season.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened with Liverpool. So what he's saying is that this is a bad defence of the title, which it is, obviously, because of the points they have and the defeats that they've had. But it is an exceptional season as well. I mean,
yes.
Roy Keane, when he was at Manchester United, didn't go through the season and the time that Liverpool have had this year with the
Yes.
virus situation, the matches being played, losing a few of their players, to Van Dijk in particular. And I don't remember that ever happened to Roy Keane's Manchester United when they were defending their title. So I'd say that in the defence of Liverpool. But you know, I understand what Roy Keane is saying. I know where he's coming from, because that's what he did himself. What made him a great player was his hunger, regardless of what they won before. He wasn't a Bobby Charlton, Roy Keane. He wasn't a Scholes. He was a Roy Keane, which made and a huge influence in making Manchester United great at the time that he did. So I can understand where he's coming from, but I don't think he's taken into consideration the sequence of events since the start of last season.
Yeah, okay.
There's no doubt about that.
No, yeah. I agreed with Keane, particularly in relation to yesterday's match. But let's try and...
No, I agree with what... Sorry,
yes,
I agree
do.
with what he's saying. I'm just giving the reasons that why he says it and has the right to say it.
Yeah.
Sorry, now I'll leave you to it now.
He sure has the right to say it because he was such a great player. Now, what I think you're referring to, and I'd certainly refer to when analysing Liverpool and Manchester City, because we have to do that as well. Liverpool's injuries have been extraordinary. They've lost 3 centre halves. Gomez, Matip, and of course Van Dijk, who's a huge player in every sense of the word. They also lost. If you lose, your central defence, you've got to move Henderson back. You've got to move Fabinho back. So they're makeshift central defenders, but you've lost your midfield. And Henderson in particular, and Fabinho actually, were powerful midfield players driving the team forward. You don't replace that. So you lose at the back, you lose in midfield, and that really is the heart of your team gone. And that's an exceptional circumstance. There's no doubt about that. However, before we go on to Manchester City, we both have had a view of City, which I'll get to in a minute. You have to say, even allowing for Liverpool's misfortune with injuries, the way they lost that game yesterday, having been allowed back into it, John, with Alisson's 2 mistakes, Alexander-Arnold being responsible for 2 of the goals, and really not pushing on and learning a bit more about the defensive side of the game. You said to me after the match yesterday, we were talking, you said, there's something not right at Liverpool. And I agree with you. What it is, we can't identify. Would you elaborate on what you saw? Because you were a champion, you played a champion team. This wouldn't have happened to your team, I take it. The implication of what Roy Keane was saying, they may have lost, but they never lost like that.
Well, that's true, Eamon. But again, I'll go back to my Leeds time. And again, we didn't have a season like they've had this season, Eamon. You know, we didn't have loads of injuries. We didn't have a 2-week break or a 3-week break and all that. Now, obviously, City, Liverpool haven't responded well this season. And what you find yesterday, I mean, the goalkeeper has been absolutely outstanding since he's come to the club.
Yeah.
Right? And it was mostly his fault yesterday. I mean, he gave away 2 goals. I mean, Alexander didn't defend well. I don't think he's a good defender anyway. And Sterling gave him a little bit of a roast. And so I think what's happened to Liverpool is that they're defending more this season than they did last season.
Yeah.
Because Alexander's great going forward. He's a brilliant distributor of the ball. But now he has to defend, and a lot of others have to defend. And he hasn't responded in the right way. But the goalkeeper doing what he did yesterday was most unusual.
Yes.
Because he's been absolutely brilliant for Liverpool. But overall, and you'd have to say from City have picked it up, Eamon. I mean, I've been on your programme earlier and I said City have gone.
Yeah.
I honestly thought they'd gone this year.
I just want to reference one of our listeners, Daniel Harvey. If you're listening, Daniel, I got an email from him after the game, and every email we get on the stand is read and very welcome when it's critical. Daniel said, after Leicester beat them 5-2 at the Etihad, you and I sat down the next morning, had a chat, and we both agreed that they'd gone. I absolutely recognise that, Daniel, and I'm sure John does. Now, he has done a hell of a job, Pep Guardiola, in repairing that team, getting John Stones back and looking like a player, a serious player. This young lad, Foden, and Diaz, the Spanish central defender, who I'm not convinced about, but maybe we got a clue. He gave the penalty away by pulling Mo Salah back yesterday, but they look back to almost to their imposing best, and that's without De Bruyne and Aguero in the team yesterday. De Bruyne in particular, because he's younger.
Yeah, and Walker didn't play either.
No, Walker's out as well.
I'll admit, I said early on the season, I think they've gone, and that was it. But they made a terrific comeback. I think Giles is good, and I think he's made a big change to him. And again, Stones has come back to where he was. He's not making mistakes anymore. So they're solid at the back. They're not giving goals away, which they were doing. That's a big help to them. But also when they don't have the ball now, they're working at their best. They're getting it back. They're working hard. They're working quickly. They're doing this.
Yes.
They've been very, very impressive in the last 2 or 3 months, I'd have to say, and impressive again yesterday. But well aided by the goalkeeper, which you can't do. Any goalkeeper, especially Liverpool's, who's been terrific, do what he did yesterday. I think Man City were a better team anyway on the day. But he certainly made it easier for them to be so convincing by the end of the game. So, City have definitely come back in a way that I didn't expect them to. And Liverpool have definitely deteriorated in a way that I have never expected them to either.
Now, Manchester City have conceded 14 goals in the Premier League this year in 22 games. Now, they've also signed I think a very good player, this fella Cancelo, the right back. He's in for, at the moment, instead of Walker, who Walker has his virtues, but he's he's very headstrong. This guy is a much cooler dude. He's a good footballer as well. And you'd have to say after yesterday, And you're right about Sterling. He walked past Alexander Arnold before Fabinho had to trip him in the box for the first penalty, and for the next goal he walked past him again. And really, Alexander Arnold has been talked of as a great player, and he may well become one. But his first job, John, has to be defending, and he's pretty woeful at that.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Well, like last year when they were on top in Liverpool and they were dominating teams, then he came into his own. He's a brilliant distributor of the ball. He's one of the best distributors of balls I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's as midfield players or anything else. He's brilliant when he gets into that position. But obviously when you're under attack, then you have to defend. And unfortunately, he's not good at that. So that's why it's changed for Liverpool. Last year they were attacking most of the time, especially at Anfield. Now they have to defend a fair bit, and then he's called to do something that he's not particularly good at, which gets Liverpool into more trouble.
When you said to me yesterday, "There's something wrong there, John," what did you mean?
Well, it's such a difference from last season, Eamon. Now, I would explain. I have done now just recently. In this conversation, that it's an exceptional season.
Yes.
In what's happened?
Yeah, there was no pre-season
that they've had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was different, but it was different for a lot of other teams as well, Eamon.
Yeah. Who
have responded in their own way in relation to what the situation they're in. Manchester City have responded brilliantly in relation, and they had a tough time like everybody else had. So I mean, there have been occasions, definitely with teams, and I would go back to my own time at Leeds. We won the league in 68-69, and we didn't get going again until the following Christmas. And it wasn't something we didn't have injuries like Liverpool have had, but it was like when you're going for it in the last 10 matches of the season, now to win it, you're at a certain level. But if you look back on it now with Liverpool, Eamon, they won the Premiership early on.
Yeah, and they started actually dropping points immediately afterwards.
Yeah. And they haven't had a chance to recover from it because now they've had the injuries. So there is a psychological thing in defending your title and getting back to where you were at that particular stage of the season. Now, in Roy Keane's case, I go back to Roy Keane again, I'd say he was a driving force at Manchester United in getting back straight away.
Yes.
Because that's what he's like. That's what Keane was like, and that's what made him great. So you would have that element of being a little bit slack at the start of the following season, especially when it came around as quickly as it did for this season. That's the reason So I don't think Klopp has been able to pick them up from that. Well, he obviously hasn't, because the results they're getting is nowhere near what they were getting last season.
Yeah.
So that psychological thing does come into it, and it's very difficult for the manager to pick it up. So what they normally did, Liverpool in their old days, and then we won the league in 68-69, we bought Alan Clark straight away.
Yeah.
Right. And in Liverpool in their old days, when they did Kenny Dalglish and Souness and that, when they won the title, Eamon, they bought two new players nearly every season that improved the team again. And Liverpool did it with this season with buying the lad from Wolves.
Yeah. Jota. Yeah.
Jota. Unfortunately, he's been injured. But when he was their best player before he got injured, Damon.
Yeah,
he had the hunger. He hadn't won it last season.
Exactly.
He hadn't done it.
Yeah. Now
so that would be my take on it. Anyway,
there is one player that I think I'd question, and it's Thiago. In midfield last year, Henderson in particular, Fabinho also, and when he had to play in there, James Milner. And Milner does a good job anywhere. Now, they brought in Thiago, and I know Didi, our old friend, has said that he thinks Thiago is not a good buy for Liverpool because they need to be more powerful, forceful, and different in midfield in the way that Henderson is making. I tend to agree with that. I have my doubts about Thiago, John, but I think you like him, do you?
Well, I think he's a good player, Eamon, and I think it's a little bit unfair to judge him in the circumstances that he's brought into in relation to where they were last year.
Yes.
It's very difficult for any player to come in to a Liverpool team that's maybe 50%, 60% down on how they were playing last year.
Right.
Damon.
Okay.
So I'd give him time, and let's put it this way: if he came into the Liverpool team that with last year when they were playing brilliantly, I think he'd be really, really good. He's not so good. I think he's a better player than he's looking at the moment because of the situation Liverpool are in.
Okay,
it's
let
not
me
the
ask.
Ideal time for a new lad to be coming into it, you know.
Well, let me first of all say that I thought City had gone, and this is the first time really I can remember if this partnership between Stones and Diaz works, that Pep has really, even at Barcelona, that he's really had two top-class defenders, and the goals against are 14 in 22 games, which is, is championship winning defending. And they do look now back to their formidable best, which is hunting the ball in packs. It was noticeable during periods of the game when it was still anyone's game, John, that they were closing Liverpool down, they were putting the work in, and actually they stopped doing that earlier in the season. But now he's rebuilt that. How good do you think Foden is? I heard, and I'm sick of hearing Gary Neville, because he's very picky and choosy in who he criticises or indeed praises. But they are all saying now how good Foden is. How good is he, John?
Yeah, I think he's good, Eamon.
Yeah,
I think we had a discussion about him earlier.
Yeah, I'm not mad. I'm not as mad. He is obviously a good player.
You weren't that keen on him. I think he's only 20, Eamon.
Yes.
And what he has, he could. It sounds odd. He can actually beat players.
Yes.
No, he can dribble. He can beat players, and he sees the pass, as they say nowadays in the game. You know, he's a good left foot. Eamon. He's quick.
He scores goals.
Than he looked.
He scores goals, yeah.
And you get goals.
Yeah,
I think he'll be a real player. I mean, he's only 20 now, but he has something that a lot of players don't have now, which is with the ability to go past people.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see it much now. A lot of players now go and they pull out of it, and they pull it back, and they play it sideways. Now he can actually go past people, and he can finish because he gets it onto his left foot. And I've seen a good few goals he scored this season. He's a good finisher as well. I think he has the makings now of a top-class player. Now,
Liverpool, John, we have to project forward a bit. Clearly, they need to get into the Champions League. It's lucrative. It's, of course, where you would expect a team and a club like Liverpool to be. And they'll have to scrap a bit now to get there, but they may be okay. From where they are, let's say they get Van Dijk back, they get Jota back, they get Gomez back, and Henderson and Fabinho can get into midfield, which is really what they are. They have to really regroup, maybe sign a central defender, because Joe Gomez and Matip are both frail. They're both injury prone, and Gomez throughout his career has been, and Matip looks extremely delicate. They do need someone to play alongside Van Dijk, and they should be okay. But they have the Champions League to play now. They have Leipzig in the knockout phase, last 16. So they should be looking at that still, do you think? But they should and could get back into where they ought to be if Klopp does his work properly. There has been some suggestion, John, that Klopp wanted to go into the market for a centre-half at the beginning of the transfer window that expired last Monday, but they wouldn't let him. Now, that's not good, is it?
No, it's terrible. I mean, and this, you see, this could be could be what I'm talking about. There's something not right there.
Yeah.
Because funny enough, Emily, he's brought these two centre halves in.
Yeah.
But he's paying 1.5 million, and something going next on the other lad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not Liverpool, Eamon.
Yeah.
That's not the way they should be. You know, if they and you said they need a central defender.
Yeah.
Even even when Van Dijk comes back, they
Yes.
still need a central defender.
Yeah.
Go and buy one, for
Yeah.
heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Go and spend the money. They're making fortunes. Since Klopp has gone there, they made fortunes on him. I can't understand that thing in the transfer deals that they were talking about. A lad from what was it, Preston, and another lad coming from abroad. I mean, and he said yesterday, he can't put them in the team now.
No.
Just
No.
can't. I mean, he has to do what he's doing. No, but this is a crisis at the club, and he's making fortunes for the club. But you're quite right. I did read in the paper there a week or two back that he has to agree with the guys. Of course, he has to agree with them, but they should be backing him
Yes.
in what he's doing. He hasn't spent. If you look at his overall spending, he spent very little money at Liverpool for what they have brought in.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the success that he's brought.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not right, and he mightn't be good in himself, thinking, well, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And players pick up on it. I'm only making that as a suggestion, Eamon. But
Yeah.
definitely, we definitely know he needed a centre half,
Yes.
and he hasn't got one.
Yeah.
That's not right in a team like Liverpool and what he's done. This is not a new guy that's come in where he has to prove himself to spend money. This guy's done it all. He's a champion. He won the Champions League, and he's the top team in Europe.
Yeah.
One of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, and
you should be saying,
potentially,
what do you need? What do you need?
Yeah,
you know?
just to assure Daniel Harvey that we're not immune to self-criticism, we thought, both of us, I think, and you were saying it up to a fortnight ago, that they'd win the league again this year, handy, and also that they had a team that could go on and dominate in Europe, but that was before the injuries. Let's just...
what I said, sorry, what I said last year when you said we were talking about Liverpool in the position that they're in, and where they can go from here. And I think I said to you, well, I think they've built the foundation for a dynasty.
Yes.
But you never know what's going to happen. I mean,
No.
we couldn't foresee this situation where we have the virus and Van Dijk getting injured and players getting in. You just don't know. But I think they'll come back. I know if it's been led well if it's not been well led from the top.
Yeah.
And Klopp is not happy with the situation. It'll show in the team, Eamon, definitely, because the players will pick it up. So I think it's vital that at this stage now with Liverpool, they back him, which they haven't backed him. They definitely haven't backed him, Eamon. So that could be a situation where if he's not happy, it gets through to the players as well.
Just one other thing. I always thought Klopp, in his post-match interviews, and that was charming and respectful. But in the last few weeks, he's started having a go at Jeff Reeves, who does the post-match interviews for Sky. And he was unpleasant for the last few weeks. I've seen him sarcastic, unpleasant, and even in his Friday press conference last week, he insinuated that City had somehow pulled a stroke by getting 2 weeks off for COVID in December, which Guardiola responded to. He said, I didn't think Klopp was that kind of guy. In other words, snaky. I didn't think he was either, but I wonder.
Well, Eamon, we don't know.
No.
If it could be a situation, well, there's a certain amount of stuff in the paper about him buying these two lads, for example. I can't understand that for Liverpool. I just can't get it to do central defenders they bought.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of going for one of the big guys. So we don't know how a manager's treated at a club. We've seen over the years how badly they can be treated, and not being given the resources that they needed to do what needs to be done. That could be the situation. And if you're in his position, and that was the case, I mean, you wouldn't be in the best of form with anybody.
No, okay.
This is vital to him. This is vital to him.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool should have said, one, Van Dijk got injured, and the other lads were definitely injury prone.
Yeah.
Right, what do you need? Go out and get them.
Okay, just one other thought, that a packed Anfield would have been very welcome yesterday. I'm a bit sick of watching matches in empty stadiums, John. And Liverpool more than anywhere, Anfield more than anywhere, is an asset to Liverpool. And attacking the Kop in the second half. you would have imagined it might have energised them, but that's just...
I don't think so.
I know that's not your...
No, it's too deep. I think it's too deep.
It is too deep, yeah. I accept that. Now,
really
John, another of our listeners, Andrew Kelly, I think he's a Manchester United fan from the tenor of his email. He talks about us with contempt. The same old analysis of Manchester United every week about Pogba and da-da-da. It's a short, sharp rebuke from Andrew. So let's move on to Manchester United-Everton, which I watched on Saturday night. And I must say, the game hinged on... really, United went 2-0 up and then looked like they could cruise. But Everton got 2 goals back. United got in front again. And then the equaliser came in the last seconds of overtime. It was a set piece. De Gea, I thought, bottled it big time. And Calvert-Lewin scored an equalising goal. I think even Gary Neville, and most people agreed De Gea did bottle it. He pulled out of it. Now, you saw, what did you make of it?
Well, I think he could have done better on him, and I think that's where, goalkeepers, I don't think he was brave.
Oh, that's the point. That's called bottling it.
Yeah, bottling it, yeah. I'm trying to be nice to him, but I think it was a situation he could have been injured in.
Yeah.
He definitely could have been injured in. It because the big lad Calvert-Lewin was going for the ball. He was going all the way, and he really, really should have tried to smother it.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Well, he stood up, John. He should have dived at the ball and smothered the ball. He actually stayed on his feet. Yeah.
There was a possibility. Yeah, he definitely should have done. There was a possibility of being injured there, Eamon. But to get back to the criticism of your man, your lad writing in, that, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm only doing the job. You're only doing the job, and you'd have to say in Manchester United's case that they haven't been consistent in what they've been doing.
Yeah.
And I think I read out the thing didn't I, about what Fernandes is saying.
Yes.
That, he's saying that's going on, but it's all about learning and making it better. And my criticism of Solskjaer, I don't think he does.
No, I think the point Andrew Kelly is making is that even when Solskjaer, we're critical of Solskjaer and we articulate our criticism, he did get Manchester United to the top of the table, and that's something to be that he should be credited with, and that we still aren't expecting. I'm not saying we're right or Andrew's right, but there's no doubt they were top of the table. And if you look at the table this morning, they're second ahead of.
This is Manchester United.
Yeah, I know.
They're 7 or 8 points behind Manchester City at the moment.
Yeah,
and they're dropping points.
Yeah,
they're not playing like champions.
No.
They're in the position they're in because most of the other teams are not doing it either.
Yes.
That's the situation with and my criticism of Solskjaer, I think he's a very nice lad. But I think what happens with managers when they get a team, he's there 2 years, and you start off and you find out exactly what you need, and then week by week, match by match, you put things right. Now, I don't think he does that. I think he's got some terrific players. And that's what I read the thing out with Fernandes, because he's saying exactly what I'm saying. It's no good talking about it if we're not putting it right.
Yes.
I don't think he looks at and analyses the game. And football, in my opinion, is made up of a million little things, Eamon. And you put that right in that match. You put right in the next. And every match you play, you should learn and get better and better and better. I don't think that's happened at Manchester United. They're still making the same mistakes that they made when he first came in. So I don't think he's making it better, although he's got a lot of good players who can be very, very good on the day. But to win it, you need the consistency that all the teams in Keane's day and other teams that won the Premiership, you need that consistency week in and week out. And nobody could say that Manchester United have that consistency.
No.
The last thing they have is consistency. They can be brilliant and then inconsistent.
Yeah, they're 5 points behind City, but it's clear City have a game in hand, incidentally, and Leicester are 7 points behind, and City have a game in hand of all their rivals actually at the top. So they do look good to win the championship this year. Interesting fact about United: away from home, they've won 8 and drawn 3, and they haven't lost a game away from home. At home, they've won 5, drawn 3, and lost 4. And Leicester is a really interesting case, John. They've won 5 and lost 5 at home, and they've won 6 and drawn 3 away from home, including beating City 5-2. But Vardy's out of that team. But it is, we know, an extraordinary season and a very unusual season. The other team that ought to be mentioned is Chelsea. They've had their first 3 games now with Tuchel, their new manager from PSG. They've won them, but that's very early days. Just to address the point about our analysis of Manchester United, I would just like to say I agree with you. Manchester United, I think Keane would say the same thing, or Manchester United people, that the expectation there is very, very high, and it has to be high. And the same standards apply to Liverpool because of the history of these clubs. So they are subject to more stringent and rigorous criticism because the bar is so high because of the players and the teams that came before them.
Yeah. Well, we're only giving our opinions on it, Eamon. But what you'll find with teams that go on and win the Premiership, even in recent times, like Liverpool won it last year, but there was a consistency about the performance week in and week out.
Yeah.
Now, what you find, like Manchester United could still go on and win the league. I mean, it can happen, but it's less likely to happen if you're not putting things right week in and week out.
Yeah.
But it can happen. You know, I mean, in my take on Solskjaer, I don't think he gets onto the players an awful lot. And sometimes you're better saying too little than too much, especially if what you're saying is not good.
Well, maybe that's what he's doing.
I think he looks at the game, he's got good players, he gets out there, but the little details that you need, and again, I go back to football, in my opinion, made up of a million little things. I don't think Solskjaer sees the little things.
Yeah. Okay.
And that leads to inconsistency, Eamon. And if you get inconsistency, you're less likely to win the Premiership. That's what I would say about it. I think Solskjaer is a lovely lad. I think he's a very nice fella, terrific lad. But is he doing the job that needs to be done to win it? At the moment, I don't think so. Okay.
Now, John, there's one thing I would like to ask you about Manchester United, and it's to do with Cavani. I think he's super player. He has a great record in the game. He's in his 30s now, well into it. I think he's 33, but he's fit. He scored a very good goal the other night. Marcus Rashford has had a lot of publicity in England, John, for a very good reason. I think he was given an MBE. He has campaigned in a quiet but persistent way for poor people and for free food for children who are deprived, as many of them are in Manchester, the part of Manchester where Marcus Rashford grew up. He's a good lad, good man. His game, John, looks to me as if it's gone to pieces, and it's sad to see. Just as a general point, could I put it to you that you need to be focused on your football, and you can get sucked into campaigns outside of football about things that have nothing to do with football. And I think I can see in his inconsistent play, should we say, because I think he's a fabulous player potentially, that maybe he's doing a little bit too much outside of the game, getting sucked into campaigns that, however worded they are, and they are more important than football really, you need to be focused and you need to be single-minded.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would agree with you. I think he's a terrific lad. I think what he's done is great as well. But it could well be a distraction.
Yes,
there's no doubt. Like lots of things can be a distraction. And I mean, because at that level of play, you have to be really concentrating on every minute and everything that you do.
Yes.
To get the best out of yourself on it there, because it's very easy for your mind to wander. It could well be that, unfortunately, for the lad. He's a terrific lad. And
you can get emotionally exhausted as well, can't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's anything is a distraction. You see lads who get into trouble, marriage troubles and various things. I mean, we're talking about John Stones there early on. I think a couple of years ago, actually, it wasn't a coincidence. When he was playing poorly, that
he had troubles off the field. Yes,
problems off the field, and I've heard it so many times with lads who get into trouble off the field. Because football is highly concentrated situation. Every match you play in, every minute of every match you play in, and it's very, very difficult. And it could well be the case with young Rashford. Despite all, it is good work that he does. There's no doubt about it. Is it helping his football? I'd have my doubts as well about it.
I'd say Alex Ferguson, if he was still the coach at Manchester United, or the manager actually, the word manager in Ferguson's case was appropriate, would have sorted that out. Okay, John, we're very grateful to you. As always, thank you very much to Daniel Harvey and Andrew Kelly and all the people who listen to this podcast. Every thing that you feel and think and your criticism is very, very welcome. And it isn't at all taken in the wrong way. People are entitled to their opinions, however scathing they might be at times. Nobody is perfect, except John. Thanks for joining.
Anything but, Damon.
Thanks for joining us, John.